The days after Dylan disappeared were unbearable. Every corner of the town seemed to whisper his name, yet no one else could hear it. People went about their routines, unaware of what had happened at Blackwater, and I felt more alone than I ever had in my life. The local diner smelled the same: fries, coffee, and grease, but the laughter that once filled the air now felt like a cruel mockery. I sat in our usual booth, staring at an empty chair, half expecting Dylan to burst through the door with a joke, a grin, a story about how he'd gotten stuck in some ridiculous situation. But he never did. At first, I tried to convince myself it was all some warped dream. Maybe the stress, the darkness, the whispering mist, it had combined to warp reality. But reality doesn't leave mud-stained sneakers floating in the middle of your living room when you blink. Reality doesn't make your phone vibrate with cryptic messages at impossible hours. I started receiving texts. No number, no identifier, just strings of letters that made no sense. At first I thought it was a prank, but then I noticed the timing. 3:33 a.m. every night. One morning, I checked the river's currents in the daylight. Calm, unremarkable, ordinary. But at 3:33 that night, a low hum rolled across the town, faint but unmistakable, vibrating in my teeth and jaw. The local news reported nothing unusual. Missing persons in other towns, yes, but nothing connected to Blackwater. I tried to speak to the sheriff, a kind man with decades of experience, but he dismissed my account as hallucination or trauma. "Rivers have moods," he said. "You're young. You'll forget this." He didn't know, couldn't know. He hadn't seen the way the water shimmered, hadn't felt the pull beneath your feet, hadn't watched a friend vanish without a splash. Then I found the newspaper clippings, stashed in the library's archive, yellowed with age, articles dating back decades. Every 13 years, someone disappears along Blackwater River. The reports were identical in structure. A friend or family member sees something strange. Someone steps into the water, and then they're gone. No struggle, no explanation, just absence. The locals remembered some of them, whispered about them, but no one talked openly. I took these clippings to Mr. Clancy, the fisherman who had warned us that night. His face was pale when he saw them, lines deepening around his eyes. "The river doesn't just take people," he said, voice shaking. "It keeps promises." "Promises?" I asked. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as if the mist itself could hear. "Every cycle, someone is chosen. It doesn't matter who you are. What it wants is balance. It's not anger, it's rules. Rules older than this town. Rules no one alive understands completely. But it notices when someone disobeys, when someone lingers too long. That's when it takes. You've seen what happens." I left his shack with a growing sense of dread. Every shadow along the streets, every reflection in a store window felt alive. I became aware of the river in ways I had never imagined. The way the clouds moved above it, the way the water sometimes shimmered at night, the subtle whispers that only I seemed to hear. Dylan's absence became a constant presence, a void shaped like a friend who was still out there somewhere, trapped by rules I could barely comprehend. Even sleep offered no relief. Dreams were replaced by visions, a hand reaching from the water, his face half hidden in shadows, the glowing orbs circling endlessly, forming shapes that made no sense yet felt like warnings. And every morning, I woke with that metallic taste on my tongue, a reminder that the river had not forgotten, that the cycle had not ended. I tried to warn others, cryptic posts on forums, vague hints to people who might investigate. But nothing I said could capture the enormity of it. Only those who had seen or felt the pull could understand. And now, even as I write this, I sense it moving, waiting, planning, observing. My phone buzzes with faint light, I dare not check it. Because the rules are clear. The river keeps its promises, and the next cycle is always coming. You don't get a bargain. You don't get to escape. You either know and respect its patterns, or you risk being claimed. I've learned that much. I've survived, but survival has its own cost. Sleepless nights, paranoia, the constant sense that any ripple in water or shadow in the mist might signal the beginning of the next inevitable disappearance. The town carries on as if nothing has happened. Children play along the banks in daylight. Couples fish along the edges, oblivious to the cycles of terror that occur under the cover of night. But I know. I've seen it. I've felt it. And the moment you stop believing, the moment you think you're safe, that's when the river notices you too. The morning was gray and hollow when I drove back toward Blackwater. Every mile of the winding road seemed longer than it had before, stretched and distorted, as though the forest itself was reluctant to release me. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly that the knuckles whitened, and the taste of iron still lingered on my tongue. I hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every shadow in my small apartment, every ripple in the kitchen faucet, reminded me of Dylan, the river, the cycles I didn't understand but could feel creeping closer. I parked at the usual dirt path, the same one that had led us to the edge of the river that night. The place looked different in daylight. The mist had lifted, leaving only the mud and the river's glassy black surface, placid and innocent seeming. If anyone else had walked here, they would have seen nothing strange, nothing ominous. But I did. I felt it in my bones, the low hum beneath the water, the tug at the air around me, subtle yet undeniable. I stepped onto the bank, the mud sucking at my shoes like it remembered me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it, though my curiosity ached. When I finally glanced, the screen was alive with a message I could not ignore. Tide approaching. Be ready. My pulse spiked. I swallowed hard. I had no choice but to move closer. Each step felt unnatural, slow, deliberate, as if the river itself resisted my approach. The water's surface shimmered in odd patterns, small orbs rising and vanishing too quickly for me to follow with my eyes. I remember the newspaper clippings, Mr. Clancy's warnings, the whispers at 3:33 a.m., and the sneaker. I knew I was risking everything, but guilt and desperation outweighed fear. Then I saw it, a faint outline in the water, twisting and coiling. My stomach dropped. The orbs pooled around it like circling fireflies. My heart raced. For an instant, I thought I saw Dylan's face, half hidden beneath the darkness, his expression pleading yet distant, as though he were underwater but aware of me. I shouted his name. The sound died in my throat, absorbed by the low, vibrating hum that had grown louder, a chorus of voices that spoke in rhythms I couldn't comprehend. I reached toward him. The water rippled, not outward but upward, curling around my hand in a cool, unyielding grip. Panic clawed through me. I stumbled back. The river responded instantly, a subtle wave of energy washing over the bank, brushing my legs, the mud, the very air. It felt alive, aware, patient yet hungry. A voice, or maybe multiple voices layered at once, echoed inside my head. You know the rules now. Do not linger. Do not resist. Observe and survive. I froze, understanding with sick clarity. This was not a mindless force. It was deliberate, structured. It demanded obedience to patterns I barely understood, and the moment I stepped outside them, it would claim me, just as it had Dylan. I backed up, eyes scanning the river. Something glimmered beneath the black surface. A flash of a shoe, then an arm, twisting as if trying to reach upward, but it vanished before I could react. My knees buckled. The orbs pulsed again, faster, and the hum thickened, vibrating in the ground, the trees, my chest. Every instinct screamed for me to flee, yet I couldn't turn my back completely. Dylan was still there, or something like him, and the river demanded I witness it. Then came the first hint of a pattern. The orbs moved rhythmically, forming shapes, symbols almost too subtle to perceive. I realized they were communicating an invisible language. Every cycle had structure, a code I had only glimpsed. I had survived by observing the rules. Dylan had not. I couldn't make sense of the language fully, but a word burned itself into my awareness: balance. The water shifted suddenly. A column of black surged, and for a fleeting moment, Dylan's face was visible, mouth open in a silent scream. I lunged, but the river expelled him upward in a violent swirl, then retreated, leaving the surface calm. I fell back, mud coating my clothes, chest heaving, shaking uncontrollably. I realized then that this confrontation was different from the first. I could not interact with the river as before. The rules were strict. You could observe, you could learn, you could survive, but interference came at cost. Any attempt to pull someone out, any deviation, risked everything. Dylan had been taken because he'd stepped beyond the limits, however unknowingly. The hum receded slightly. The orbs blinked, then vanished. I stood frozen, mud-caked and trembling, understanding that I had witnessed more than anyone should. The river was alive, aware, and governed by rules older than memory. I had survived the night by following those rules instinctively, by observing rather than acting. When dawn broke, the Blackwater looked entirely ordinary. I walked back to my car, every muscle exhausted, every sense on edge. I knew I would return again, because the cycle would never end, and understanding the rules was the only way to survive. But I would be different now, observant, careful, aware of the invisible boundaries that the river enforced. Dylan's absence was a constant ache, but it also became a warning. Obey, or the next cycle could claim me. The river waited. Always. And I had learned, finally, that some things are meant to be watched, never touched. The river waited. I knew that the moment I stepped onto the muddy bank. The low hum was back, vibrating in my chest, in my skull, in the soles of my shoes. Blackwater was patient, deliberate, and aware. I had returned because I couldn't stop thinking about Dylan, about the impossibility of his disappearance, about the rules I barely understood. I whispered his name into the still night, but the words felt swallowed by the mist. The water shimmered faintly, the surface flickering with the pale glow of the orbs I had seen before. My stomach twisted. I understood, finally, that approaching the river meant confrontation, not just with what it could do, but with what it expected from me. I stepped closer, fingers brushing the surface. Cold, alive, like touching something that thought, that remembered. I spoke aloud, desperation in every word. I'll obey. I'll follow the rules. Please give him back. The water pulsed. The orbs circled faster, their glow brightening and dimming like a heartbeat. Then a voice, or maybe several, emerged, layered and impossible to place. Balance must be maintained. Sacrifice required. Observe or suffer. I'll do anything, I said, teeth chattering. Anything you want. Take me, just give him back. The river responded with a swirl, water rising without a sound, shaping itself into forms that suggested faces, hands, eyes. And in one of them, I saw Dylan. Not the friend I remembered, but something distorted, suspended, trapped between water and shadow. His gaze met mine, wide and terrified. My chest ached. I swallowed hard. Offer something in return, the hum whispered. Choose wisely. I didn't understand at first. What could I possibly give? my fear, my obedience, my life. And yet, instinct told me the river measured more than mere offerings. It measured intent, understanding, willingness to accept the rules. I can give anything, I said. I'll stay. I'll watch. I'll never disobey again. The hum deepened, vibrating my skull. The orbs pulsed in a rhythm that was almost speech. I felt memories not my own, of others who had approached, who had bargained, who had failed. The river did not forgive easily. Then it offered a choice, not in words, but in sensation, a vision of two paths. One was light, calm, safe, me leaving, alive, Dylan gone. The other was darkness, danger, risk, the chance to reach him, to follow the rules precisely, and maybe bring him back. The cost was unclear. The consequences unspoken. I shivered. My mind screamed at me to leave, to survive. Every instinct for self-preservation warned that the second path would destroy me. And yet, I couldn't let him go. Not like this. Not without trying. I stepped into the water. Cold and unyielding, it wrapped around my legs like a living barrier. Each step demanded attention, calculation. The orbs swirled around me, forming patterns I struggled to interpret. Do not touch. Observe. Wait. The river's invisible hand guided me, a subtle force that pushed and pulled in rhythm with the hum. Dylan appeared again, just ahead, trapped in a column of water that twisted unnaturally, the glow of the orbs highlighting the panic in his eyes. I reached toward him, careful. One wrong move, and I would be claimed too. My hand trembled. Do you understand the rules? The hum demanded. Ido, he whispered. I will obey. I will not interfere. I'll follow. The column shifted, and the water around me contracted slightly, then released. I could almost feel the river assessing me, weighing my intentions. And then it parted enough for Dylan's hand to brush mine. He didn't rise, didn't move fully, but the connection was enough, a promise that the cycle could be reversed if I maintained strict obedience. I pulled back immediately, heart hammering. The river accepted. Not fully, not yet, but it acknowledged the bargain. The orbs dimmed, the hum faded, and the water settled into its natural rhythm. Dylan's image blurred and vanished, leaving only the eerie calm of black water. I stepped back onto the bank, shaking, soaked to the bone, and realized the truth. The river's bargains were not about giving or taking. They were about understanding, patience, and fear. It demanded adherence to rules older than memory, patience beyond human endurance, and a willingness to accept uncertainty. I had survived this encounter. I had glimpsed a path that might bring Dylan back, but the river would test me again. Every cycle, every whisper, every shimmer of light would be a reminder. It was alive, it was aware, and the bargains it offered were never free. And I knew I would return, because some debts, especially those owed to the river, cannot be ignored. I still hear the river, not the rush of water, not the ordinary sounds that anyone else would recognize, but the low, constant hum that creeps into your bones when the night is still and the mist clings to the ground. I can feel it even now, weeks after that night, vibrating in the edges of my skull, tugging at the corners of my vision. Some nights, I wake with a metallic taste on my tongue, my phone glowing faintly on the bedside table with messages I don't dare read. Tide approaching. Be ready. The text always comes at 3:33 a.m., just like before. I survived, but survival is a hollow victory. Dylan, he's still out there, trapped somewhere between water and shadow, between cycles, a constant reminder of the price I didn't pay yet. And I know I will pay, in some way, eventually. The river never forgets. and it never forgives the mistakes of those who walk its banks. I try to tell people, warn them, but words fail. It's impossible to convey the way the water moves, not like a river, but like a conscious being measuring, waiting, calculating. I posted online in forums, hinted at what I've seen, but no one understands. No one can, unless they have felt the tug, heard the hum, touched the shimmer of those orbs. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the river exactly as it was that night. The black surface, the glowing orbs, Dylan's distorted face reaching through the water. I feel my chest tighten, my stomach knot. And I know, deep down, that I could be next. Or worse, I could fail like Dylan because I misunderstand the rules, because I panic, because I forget that observing is survival. I've come to a simple, grim conclusion. The river doesn't bargain out of mercy. It tests. It measures. It teaches in cycles, in ways that break the mind before breaking the body. My bargain, tenuous and incomplete, bought me time, nothing more. Every step I take away from Blackwater is measured. Every glance over my shoulder, a silent acknowledgement that it is always watching. I can't tell you how to survive it. I can't give instructions that will work, because the rules are older than memory, fluid as the water itself, and utterly alien. But I can tell you this. The river notices those who doubt, those who linger, those who do not respect its cycles. The tiniest mistake, the wrong word, the hesitation, the failed observation, can be fatal. And now I must confess something I've kept secret. I am drawn to it irresistibly. The hum calls me at night. The glow of the water haunts my dreams. I know, deep down, that I will return. Not because I want to, but because the bargain isn't over. Because some debts are owed, whether you like it or not. Because curiosity, guilt, and the need to understand are stronger than fear. I'm telling you this because perhaps you will read these words and feel the pull yourself. Perhaps some part of you, deep in the quiet of the night, will hear the hum and feel the tug. Perhaps you will visit the river, following a friend's disappearance, a story, a warning that wasn't meant for your ears. If you do, remember this. Observe. Follow the rules. Do not reach recklessly. Do not underestimate the quiet patience of something that has existed longer than the town, longer than the forest, longer than memory itself. But I must warn you, once you hear the hum, once you see the shimmer of the orbs, there is no turning back. You will be a participant in a cycle far older than your life. The river will measure you, test you, and in its own way, communicate with you. Perhaps it will offer you a bargain. Perhaps it will not. But it will never let you leave unchanged. I don't know if I will see Dylan again. I don't know if I will survive the next cycle, or if the bargain I made is enough. But I know this. I'm now part of the river's rhythm, a witness, a chronicler, a cautionary tale. And the moment you finish reading these words, the choice becomes yours. Will you listen, or will you walk blindly toward the water? The river waits. The tide approaches. The orbs flicker. The hum is rising. Your turn.